felt hopeless, like you are this tiny being in this vast universe, and the world is so ugly and cruel, and you can't do anything about it? Yeah, same.
Today, as a 19-year-old teenager afraid of fully entering adulthood, yet somehow also looking forward to it, I visit these dargahs and sit there to feel emotions that I can't feel anywhere else. A certain sense of hope, encircled by enchantment. My fascination with dargahs began when I first watched Rockstar and listened to Kun Faya Kun. And it grew as I read about Sufism in my history textbook during high school as this mystical side of Islam. I did not let go of this fascination even as I entered college and discovered this newfound freedom of exploring Delhi by myself or with my friends. And so I finally visited Hazrat Nizamuddin's Dargah in southeast Delhi for the first time in my life during the harsh winters of December, but the heat of those kebabs roasting in the alleys of Nizamuddin and the smell of the incense inside the complex kept me warm. Not being a Muslim, I was a bit uncertain and anxious of doing something wrong. I'd always been told that there exists a certain etiquette in such religious sites where even a small deviation risks social disapproval and the possibility of offending the saint and the devotees, and even God. Even if I may not fully believe in him, certainly these people do, and their belief is absolute, all-encompassing, powerful, and real. Anyways, so I bought the plate full of gulabs, gulab ittar, agarbattis, the thread, and the wrapped chadar, kept my shoes with the shopkeeper, and walked the narrow, colorful gullies filled with these shops. The shopkeepers kept calling out to me, urging me to buy more, even as they could see a plate full of offerings already in my hands, almost as if their insistence was part of the passage itself, guiding me forward. The lanes seemed to carry me to the dargah where I'd never been before, and yet there was no possibility of getting lost once I entered those lanes. The approach felt deliberate, as though the entrance and the walk towards the dargah were part of the experience itself. Coming back to this question of enchantment, which will be explored throughout this video essay, what do I mean by this term? Enchantment is being produced at this site of the dargah through its sacredness. But what makes the speciality of dargah sacred? I believe, and as Anna Suvorova claims, the saint's barakat, or divine blessing, was understood to persist and even intensify after death, emanating from the tomb itself, which is why perhaps the tomb, the dargah, rather than the saint, became the primary object of veneration. Its architecture, the cube structure, the dome, the pillars, the arches, its location, the accumulation of relics, amulets, votive offerings, and the presence of millions of pilgrims all construct the material sacred landscape of the dargahs that dot the map of Delhi. Even if Sufism does not trace its roots here, it transformed, or rather found its own individual independent identity as a tradition on the Indian soil. To understand this further, we can look at the example of the Dargah of Sultan Gari, translating to the Cave of Prince, which houses the first Islamic mausoleum of the eldest son of Iltutmish, the second Delhi Sultan. Technically, he became the first Delhi Sultan by striking his own coins, having the khutbah read in his name, and receiving the patent and investiture from the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. Situated in an isolated area in southwest Delhi, on a high square plinth and enclosed by stone walls with circular corner bastions and an impressive eastern portal, the tomb is, however, Islamic in conception only. The pillars, capitals, architraves, and the cobbled pyramidal roofs are purely Hindu. The tomb of Sultan Gari is architecturally distinct for its unusual spatial arrangement centered around an octagonal platform in an open courtyard which conceals an underground crypt where the actual qabr or burial lies. This creates a layered funerary space, simultaneously open and concealed, drawing from Seljuk influences, where the body is placed in a subterranean chamber and only a symbolic marker appears above. This configuration, rare in India until much later, set Sultangarhi apart from both contemporary and later dargah architectures. On all days except Thursday, it is an ASI monument, a ticketed site regulated as part of the state's heritage apparatus. But on Thursday, it assumes a different form altogether, transforming into this dargah centered around a mysterious unnamed being. Both Hindus and Muslims come here on Thursdays to perform the ritual without having to pay the ticket for it. This oscillation between the site as a regulated historical monument and as a living sacred space reveals a tension between a past contained within this bureaucratic and linear time and a past that remains effectively alive in the present. It is precisely this coexistence of the dead monument and the enchanted inhabited shrine and how this tomb site became a dargah that draws my attention, especially given the fact that people don't even know about Iltutmish's eldest son being buried here. This is not to suggest that historical sites are inherently dead or devoid of meaning, at least not for me. Let's now focus on Delhi and how it has been this it girl since ancient times, starting with the first city of Lal Kot. It has this distinct historicity to it, which makes it so charming, even as you consider how bustling, relevant, and cosmopolitan the city is today. What I am more interested in is tracing the way these dargahs sit in the imagination and memory in the minds of different communities in Delhi, and how they still endure to this date. Borrowing the idea from Anand Taneja's account of Firozshah Kotla in his book Genealogy, where jinns are venerated both as an act of communication and communion, a way to speak across temporal ruptures and reweave broken social bonds in a city haunted by its medieval and pre-colonial pasts. Taneja invites us to see it as an imaginative act of restoration where religious thinking helps individuals locate themselves in relation to loss, memory, and the unseen. The book takes partition in 1947 and emergency in 1975 as two reference points to note that these events didn't just start and end in their respective years, but still continue to live on in the everyday lives of the marginalized communities that were directly affected by it, which include the Muslims and the lower caste or Dalits, who collectively carry intergenerational memories of partition, of loss, displacement, and discrimination. What I want to suggest here is not simply that dargahs are spaces of belief, but that they are spaces where meaning is actively made from loss. Borrowing from Taneja's conceptual framework, even where jinn veneration is absent, these dargahs or shrines similarly allow individuals to situate themselves within longer histories of rupture, be it partition, displacement, personal grief, or inherent forms of marginalization. The loss at stake is not always immediate or individual. It can be ancestral, diffuse, and ongoing. Yet it is precisely this persistence of loss that enables a corresponding persistence of hope. Hope and loss are not opposites here, but are mutually constitutive and determine how deeply we experience them in our lives. Loss generates the need for meaning, and meaning in turn sustains hope. In this sense, the dargah becomes a space where absence is not simply endured but transformed, where what is no longer present is revoked into a form of presence that can be felt, shared, and inhabited across generations. A further observation is that at Firozshah Kotla, these devotees leave letters that can be understood as either written prayers, dua, or petition papers, or both. These are addressed to the jinn, or sarkar as they write, seeking insaf or justice for the injustices that they face in their everyday lives. These can range from mundane familial disputes to personal grievances to legal and property conflicts. What is striking is the bureaucratic form these letters take. They often include passport size photographs, Aadhaar photocopies, and detailed written appeals. This produces a compelling juxtaposition, a formal mode of address within a space otherwise understood as informal, enchanted, and outside the state. Rather than suggesting a simple rejection of the legal system, these practices point to a more complex condition of marginality, where formal institutions remain inaccessible or unresponsive. However, these practices have been discontinued today as the ASI ordered the clearing up of these letters and other offerings that the devotees left. This intervention signals an attempt to reframe such spaces as regulated heritage sites. But what is particularly significant is that I encountered similar petitionary practices at Hazrat Hare Shah Dargah, a site associated with the 15th century Sufi figure Sarmad, near Jama Masjid in Old Delhi. This parallel suggests that such forms of petition are not isolated to one site but circulate across different forms of sacred spaces in Delhi. Taken together, these sites emerge as overlapping landscapes of hope and desire, where devotees seek not just spiritual intervention but also forms of justice that remain elusive elsewhere. Another thing which caught my attention was that one of the most famous events celebrated in the dargah is the Urs, or the death anniversary of the saint, which is considered the union of the saint with the divine, a kind of mystical marriage. Interestingly, the term itself resonates with the Persian term aruz, meaning bride, suggesting an intimate connection between death and union, which again connects to the fact of how the male saint always embodies a feminine attitude towards the divine, who then embodies the masculine. But women, including me, aren't allowed to enter the inner sanctum of the dargah. The threshold occupied by all women is the farthest we can go, which becomes a liminal space to navigate and make sense of this exclusion. All of these women position themselves very closely and intimately to the jali that stands between their bodies and the body of the saint, their fingers clinging onto the little spaces between the jali screen and their eyes peering through those very same spaces. Their eyes have a look which I can't quite name, but one that carries hope, faith, and some sort of desperation. The jali serves a very important role here as this boundary that cannot be crossed, but also as a boundary that doesn't fully conceal what's inside, teasing you with proximity but never fully offering access to you. You're neither fully inside nor outside the sacred space, reflecting a broader social condition in which women are central to devotional life yet excluded from its site of authority. While this feminized mode of devotion, marked by surrender and longing, may be reinterpreted as a form of affective strength, this does not dissolve the patriarchal structures that regulate access. This sacred geography is further layered by the presence of other tombs within the complex, especially given the example of the grave of another powerful woman, Jahanara, the daughter of Shah Jahan, lies between those of Amir Khusro and Nizamuddin Aulia, embedding her within this spatial and spiritual continuum that exceeds the singularity of the central saint. The dargah then is not a solitary site, but a constellation of presences where multiple histories, lineages, and attachments converge together. What intensifies this sense of sacredness is not only spatial proximity, but also the production of affect through the senses. Sight and touch, evident in the act of gazing through and grasping the jali, are accompanied by the smell of incense and roses that saturate the air, and the sound of kavali that goes through the entire space. Together, these sensory registers create an immersive atmosphere in which the sacred is not merely expressed but felt bodily, While circling the peripheries, I overheard a conversation between the Sajda Nashin and a man asking how he could know whether he was on God's path.
नहीं पता कैसे चलेगा कि हमारा जो कर्म है, जो हम काम कर रहे हैं, वो खुदा के हुक्म से नहीं हो रहा है।
नौकर का काम है हुकुम बजा लाना, हुकुम करना नौकर का काम नहीं है।
पता कैसे चलेगा?
बताने की जरूरत क्या है? मालिक है, सांसें दे रहा है, ये पता नहीं तुमको? क्या तुमको एहसास नहीं है कि तुमको वो सांसें दे रहा है? इसलिए कि याद करना है, इसीलिए तुमको पता है वो सांसें दे रहा है। तुमको पता नहीं तुम्हारी आंखों में रोशनी कौन दे रहा है? तो पता नहीं कि तुम्हारा हिलाने वाला कौन है। वो कहता है जब मैं नाराज होता हूँ सज्जों की तौफीक छीन लेता हूँ, जब राजी होता हूँ सज्जे करवाता हूँ। उससे इबादत कौन करवा रहा है? जब वही करवा रहा है तो फिर तुम किस बात का ख्याल कर रहे हो? पता कैसे चलेगा? हर चीज़ तो पता लगा रही है तुमको। ये हवा उड़ती है, ये पता लगाती है कि खुदा है। ये सांसें चलती है, ये पता लगाती है कि खुदा है। ये जिस्म चलता है, ये पता लगाता है कि खुदा है। ये पानी पीते हो तो पता लगाते हैं कि खुदा है। हर चीज में तो खुदा का एहसास हो रहा है। आप एहसास लेना नहीं चाहते तो फिर पता कैसे चलेगा? हर चीज में तो एहसास होता है, फिर कहते हो पता कैसे चलेगा? ये तो वो कहता है जो जाहिल हो कि पता कैसे चलेगा खुदा। खुदा तो हर चीज में, हर एहसास में मौजूद है, हर एहसास में मौजूद है। मेरे नमाज के बाद
In my experience of exploring all these dargahs in Delhi, I realized that each thread tied onto the jali, each incense stick lit, each rose and blanket offered is the same gesture, yet never the same. It carries the weight of all those who have died before, while inscribing a new longing onto the weave. In this quiet accumulation, the past is not just remembered but relived. The present becomes dense with desire, and the future is imagined through an act already done countless times. Repetition in the form of rituals here does not freeze time, it folds it. What emerges then is a movement not simply forward, but what might be understood as something you could call as moving forward to the past, where memory, loss, and hope converge, ultimately unsettling the linearity of time itself. I tied one of those threads myself onto the jali amongst various other threads, a reminder that there are many like me who come here hoping that the heaviness in their chest will someday disappear forever, and not just momentarily within the dargah's embrace, but beyond it, feeling a sense of enchantment and sustaining hope in a world that feels like it is becoming disenchanted day by day.